We are live.
Once again, on the topic of scarcity. So leading on from last week's live where we talked about money magic and all that we need to do in order to change our money story, we want to dig in a little bit deeper into the topic of scarcity, because it is, Simon's doing good digging, but scarcity not only with money, but scarcity in our existence. We all have these thoughts, like we wake up in the morning, just Simon this morning, we had a mosquito bothering us all night.
3 hours of terrorization.
So you couldn't sleep, and we wake up in the morning and we say, oh, I didn't get enough sleep.
I didn't get enough sleep.
I didn't get enough rest. And then we get up and it's like, oh, I don't have enough time. There's so many things on today. Can't do all these things that I want to do.
So much information. How can I watch all of the YouTube videos?
How can I get everything done that I want to do? How can I get enough money so I can buy the things that I want to buy? How can I... we constantly surround ourselves with these statements around not having enough rest, time, money, success, opportunities, people around, friends, connections,
clothes. Constantly
we're saying
food.
We don't have enough. And even us, where we're very aware of this and we're working a lot.
Even us.
Where we work a lot with this topic of money and all of it, but the scarcity is woven into the structures of our society in such a way that, like, it's almost like like the fish in the water. The scarcity surrounds us as if it's the water, and the fish doesn't even know that it's swimming in water because it's just where we've always been swimming. So there's this fast-paced society that constantly tells us, do this more, be faster, you need to achieve, you need to do this, you need to do that, and constantly we're thinking, I don't have enough, I'm not enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not beautiful enough, I won't have this success as these people out there. And this is really a disease that we are experiencing in this society that many people use as an excuse as well to actually step into their power, to step into their contribution to life, because this enoughness, this not enoughness is very
deep.
It's
deep. And we're going to share with you a few things today that may spark your let's say your willingness to change, because this doesn't happen overnight. And I know many of you watching our videos, that the rewiring process doesn't happen overnight. We get told this thing of like 21-day break a habit, 30-day break a habit. Now I read recently it was 66 days. But what about one that I was recently exploring around meditation? Maybe it takes 2 to 3 years to rewire the subconscious and the neural pathways. So we're talking, depending on who you are as an individual, will depend on how much you're willing to do consistency and conscious awareness to come into your rewiring process. And we, thankfully, I bow down to this magnificent divine being who holds me to account, who reminds me of things that I say I want to do. And when we start to practice, like, for example, just last week when we told you, say, invest instead of spend, man, I know how long, at least a year, that we like catching each other. Like, remember, you just said invest. Do the 30 to 60 minute rampage. We walk out the shop, we're like that, oh, we just spent a lot of money. It's like, where's the rampage? And it's like, you have to get this in your new behaviors. And if some of you know my journey, you know that in order to come out of the environments that I grew up in, it took years. We're talking 10 years and so on to change certain behaviors. So be gentle on yourself, and hopefully we can share a few new ways of perceiving money and scarcity today.
Yeah, Marissa Peer is one of these great speakers on this topic of not enoughness, and she says that the not enough bug is the biggest disease that riddles society these days. And she works with very, very high-end clients, with people who have a lot of money, and even these people are generally all so riddled with this disease, with this pain about not being enough, not having enough. And I know this for myself. Even the richest people that have millions in the bank still think they need another 50 million to be okay.
Could have reached $1 billion.
And there's just no satiety, especially in money. So the scarcity is woven deepest into our perception with money.
Yeah, we will share with you a few other books and research that you can jump on. And as you all know, next week, well, let's just say because many of you are watching this back, because you might watch it back and you'll hear this, but we're following up with a beautiful webinar. And that webinar is a gift to you. There's no strings attached, no hard sell, no trying to get you do anything. Afterwards, we want to share with you, which we talk a bit about that today. We want to share with you just what we're learning and using. And if you can benefit, then all hail, because then you can support somebody else. And then we start to really show up as a global community rather than having a whole heap of, strings attached.
Mm-hmm. So that makes me feel really awesome about this topic as well, and empowering us all to start circulating more money, more energy in this world, because this is how we change the world, by the flow of money. And if we keep ourselves small, and if we keep ourselves out of the abundant flow of money, then we're never going to change it. So those people of you who work on yourself, it's so important that we empower ourselves to make money our friends, to stop being scarce with it, and really, really change the dialogue around it and the dialogue on this planet, and become a whole family. And then the money will move to where it's needed most, not where the greed is the biggest.
We are family. I got all your sisters and me. Oh, yeah. I think that's what they were pointing to in that song, but it got a little bit like distorted.
Okay, so let's talk about the three toxic myths of scarcity. The first one we already touched upon, of course. It is, there's never enough. It's not enough.
Never enough.
There is not enough.
Please put in the comments if you've heard that story of there is never enough. Not enough to go around. Money doesn't grow on trees. You know the deal.
Mm-hmm. There are too many people. We have too many people on this planet. There's not enough water, not enough food, not enough air, not enough resources to feed us all. This is a very, very strong belief that is, again, woven so deeply into us. And often it becomes a huge excuse for us to not do what we're doing, because it's like, oh, I don't have enough. I can't buy what I want to buy. I can't be who I want to be because I don't have enough. And when that happens, when it becomes this excuse, this justification of just like, okay, it's not enough, then you're really running with this disease full power in your body, because you're not noticing what you actually have in this moment. And it's, again, it's taught to us by everything in society. And I am particularly very passionate, or like I have quite a lot of fire in observing the marketing strategies that most of the spiritual teachers, or many of them in the self-development, use, and they often work with scarcity marketing. And
yet they're telling you to be enough, and no pointing the fingers. It's not about judgment, as within, as without. These are brothers, and sorry about that, the ducks have landed. Nobody ever calls my phone. It's so fun. Let's turn that off. Yeah, it's really like when we talk about this world that we're in, the capitalistic world that we're in, and we got to see out that we're not them and us, and we're not pointing the finger, and there's many beautiful options out there. But this thing really shows up constantly in the self-development world, and the I don't even know why we call it spiritual world. It's like as if spiritual is separate from all of it. But still, me and Dara have really been feeling into this, and Dara's really been feeling in her heart, where she's even been inspired by people, and then following them, and then hearing how they're supporting people to be really, be in your power, be your strength.
Feel that you're enough.
Feel that you're enough, live that you're enough. And then the marketing they pop out there in their newsletters and their click funnels and all this stuff is just scaring the shit out of you and making you feel that you're not enough and you can't afford it and you need this. And if you don't have it, you're unworthy.
Get it now, otherwise it's gonna run out, and if you're not getting it, you're just gonna be the one left out. And so that plays with the psychology of scarcity and the mind, and it really bugs me, because the message behind is a very different one. And if we still need that scarcity marketing to buy people into our programs, then what are we doing? It's not really shifting anything. We're still feeding the same operation. We're still feeding that old world with our, I get very frustrated with it, and I guess I have to make a little bit of peace with it.
Now I've got to find some acceptance. Then she goes outside and
I so wish that we all could come up with a more authentic way. Of course, we want to put our stuff out there. Of course, we want to somehow market. We want to be seen in our dance. But there is different ways of speaking to people.
We're doing it. We're actually showing a different way. Charles Eisenstein is showing a different way. Carl Cease is showing a different way. There's a great way. There's a great website called Heart for Business, I think it is business. You know, there's many people looking for different ways, and they're coming through. But we have to also start calling for it ourselves and saying, hey, please don't, like, I love what you're saying, but please don't like make me feel scared that if I can't buy your program right now, I'm somehow like missing out. You know, we can communicate back to the people that we like listening to and say, hey, we're the people listening to you and we don't like the vibe right now. Yeah. So it's like, for me, we all have to stand up as co-leaders in this, as co-creators of, you know, Team Earth, whatever you want to call it. And we have to say, hey, we don't want to be sold like that. We don't sold to like that. We don't want to play in this field. And then all of a sudden we acquiesce by taking ourselves either in or out. If we take ourselves out, then people will start hearing the language because they go, oh, it's not working. They will go, oh, this ClickFunnels not working. These people are not buying into this stupid promotion that we're doing. They want authenticity. Shit, I better change the way I start communicating.
Mm-hmm. So that, yeah, so I have done this many times. I saw something that I actually found really interesting. And then the moment I see that ClickFunnels page that just totally sells me something in this really manipulative way, I just like, no, not going to go there. This is not my way. I know about these structures behind it. I know how automated they are. I know how much they're playing with our psychology. And that alone is just like, no, cannot do it. So yeah, but it's playing into the system. It's playing into the feeling of I am not enough. And one other thing also that happens when we see the world as deficient, when we see that there's not enough in it, also what it starts to justify inside of us is like, oh, I need to take care of myself because there's not enough for everybody. So I guess somebody is going to be left out. So I better take care of myself and the people that I love. And you start to justify actions that actually harm or sort of, you know, not good for everybody. They're not good for the whole, because there's constantly this feeling that somebody is going to be the one out, you know, like in the musical chair game where the kids run around and there's always one chair that's not available. So you don't want to be that one left out. So we start doing things that are actually out of integrity, just like this marketing thing. The people who are actually teaching awesome things using this because, yeah, we just need to use it. No, I say this is not the way to go forward in this world.
And just so you know, we've been shared this from people as well that go, oh, you should just use it. It works, it functions, it's great. People understand it. You know, it's like, if you don't do it, you're not really in the sort of business. You're not going to reach the people you want to reach. You won't make the money you want to make. Yeah, we heard it all. Yeah. And like, I've been following Brendan Burchard and many people back in 2009, 2010 with my brother, and we were looking at many different people using the system, creating an online course to tell you how to use the system and making millions of pounds from every person that buys into it. And then people show up and don't even have the charisma or ability to create the system that they might. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Let's say enough, no more. Change the normative, rewrite the script, and let's show up differently, guys. And if you're listening to this and you're a facilitator and you're doing this online course, you're doing stuff, check in, do a bit of research, find a new way, a more transparent, authentic way, and let's see which one's best. We're not saying our way is the best. We're saying, like, let's see which one is best.
Come up with something new.
You know, let's come up with something new. Exactly. Okay,
the second myth, toxic myth of scarcity, is more is better. And that's really a direct response of the idea of, something is not enough, so more must be better. If I get more, then I'll have more and I can hold on to it. And that's where it gets stuck. That's where we stop seeing money or anything available on this planet as water, and we start hoarding the stuff and we start holding on to it, which is very, very toxic for any kind of energy, because energy likes to flow, energy likes to move, and the more you work with it, the more it amplifies, but the less you work with it, the more it gets stagnant and stale. So it drives also competition, of course, that when we always think we need to get more and more is always better, then we don't even really enjoy the moment, because we're constantly in this chase of like, I need more. Okay, more is better. So I got the car now, but now I need to get this next thing, and now I need to get this next thing. So we've
experienced that, right?
Yes, for sure. We've even in our work, we're doing like a workshop and it's gone amazing, and like, oh, okay, on to the next one, and we're not even celebrating. So we really had to stop ourselves and say, no, so let's celebrate, let's just like
take a day out
and really just enjoy. We've just done this amazing thing. We don't have to go straight onto the next. We need to enjoy the moment that we're in order to step out of this feeling of like, okay, more is always better. We need more. We need more.
Or turning the phone off for a day is a new one that we're now attempting, like once a week, take the phone off for a day, and it's like, oh my God, What happens if we take the phone off for a day? We won't talk to people, connect to people, go online, and all this same lack and scarcity comes up. Just 2 days ago, we had a spa day, right? Where we've always said now that after doing an event or doing, offering, we just offered several of workshops at a festival, and we're like, yeah, okay, we're gonna take a day out. We took a day and a half, and long morning, being with ourselves, and then we had this like lovely moment where we were just laying in bed together. And we were just like, wow, just acknowledging each other, the year, what we've shared, people we've met, how we've circulated opportunities and gifts and money. And we really just felt, and then we was like really soft and relaxed, weren't we? And just in that receiving of that, all is well, it's all is well. We can just acknowledge ourselves in what we're doing, how we're showing up the best we can.
And it was beautiful, that moment, because when you're in that myth of more is better, it always feels like a race. It feels like you constantly to go running, and this is what I've even experienced in the last couple of weeks. It's like more, and that only stops when you stop. Like life always goes on, right? And we live with our phones, we live with our computers. There's always something that we can engage with, and only when we stop, we can start acknowledging what we actually have, what's actually right now here, and then we can exit this hamster wheel of like running. Because in this race, there is no winner. There will never be a winner in this race.
Well, there's no end, because it just continues, right? It's
so
infinite.
We lose our capacity to come to an end. We lose our capacity to just rest and come into this yin space of the yin aspect of life, which is so underdeveloped in our cultures, right? We have a lot of yang, like everybody's active, everybody's achieving, but very little yin.
Silence,
like silence,
stillness,
space,
solitude. We have a friend of mine was saying just like several months ago, last year, like, can you just stop? And we were talking about the doer persona, right? The aspect of us that's constantly doing. And it wasn't a couple of weeks ago, but you remember a few months back, at one point, you was like going through quite a sticky month. And at one point, you was like, will it all just stop? Right? And I was like, yeah. And it was really powerful that she screamed that out, because it also like really hit me in my cells of like, take a breath. And we do breath exercises, we do it all, and we find silence and stillness, and still, when you go online or you go out in the world, it's constant, right? So all of us have to take responsibility to come back to silence, which is scary for many of us, and just chill out, relax, recalibrate. What's the word? Pick ourselves up. It's like gather ourselves, in the silence. Cool.
And maybe you want to just talk about the 4 components of the ego and what
yes,
to do with this.
Let's do that. So what we wanted to share today, because it all links in, and we love these 4 components of the ego, and how we can move through them or notice them in our life. And when we're in them, they're like an unhealthy aspect of ourselves, and they drive a lot of our society. And there's a beautiful documentary by Wayne Dyer called The Shift. It's a little B movie. And I always remember many years ago now, way back when I first watched this, I was inspired by his sort of 4 components of the ego. So listen to this, and then listen how this is showing up in your in the way that you engage with money, in the way you engage with sex, in the way you engage with life on a whole. And so, so the first one is,
who I am is what I have.
Thank you. See how I said that with such a beautiful feminine voice. Yeah. Who I am is what I have. How many of you, please put in the comments, how many of you are living like that? Who I am, the definition of who you are, is what you have. And
in terms of money, that's often, of course, the bank account. We look at the numbers there, and we are happy when they're quite high, and we're feeling really drab and scared when they're really low. So there's this attachment, that there's just this feedback mechanism of the money that it gives us and who we are, and how we don't really necessarily want to show our bank accounts to everybody, and how there's all this stuff
secrecy around money. And if you ask somebody what they paid for something, they don't always want to tell you, or how much was the mortgage, or nobody wants to reveal what's really going on. And they even if they've only got a little bit pot of money right in the bank, they don't want to share that. And just a very quick story on this, because it reminds me of mine and my friend Eric's who's now a good friend of both of ours. We were on a retreat way back, whenever it was, 2 years ago or so. Two or 3 years ago, when we first met him on retreat. We were doing a talk, and me and Dara have been living in the gift and going through our own experiences with money and lack and scarcity. And at the time, we were doing a retreat, and we put on this retreat. I can't remember what number it was, and we've been living how we've been living in the gift, and nobody can understand how we live half the time. We've not even known how we live sometimes, because we dive into the unknown. And now we have more understanding of it, of course. But anyway, back then I told the story at the end of the retreat. I was like, listen, you know, I've got, I think at the time I had 1,000 euros in my bank, and we had about maybe 800 euros, something like that, around us, floating around us. And other than a little, I think a bit of savings that Dara had, like 2 grand, we had very minimal money around us in terms of, like, you know, no property, didn't own anything. I'm a minimalist. And when we told that story, and I told him that I had like pretty much 1 grand in the bank, that's all I owned, and then told him, it didn't compute for him. And he could even, maybe he comes on here and shares his experience, because he was in this mindset of that he needs to raise a lot of money. He was living in America before he can start living his dreams and doing the things he wants to do, and that he was working in a job he hated to somehow save and accumulate money and get this pot of money that would potentially give him some freedom. And it's bullshit, because I've been living free for many, many years and circulating money. And in essence, if you checked my bank account and what I've been circulating, you'd think that I was very, very poor and wasn't even earning or making any money, right? And when that registered for him, it shifted his whole perspective, right? Mm-hmm. That he actually, 1 year later, left America, took his little pot of money he had, and he's been traveling around the world now for the last year, having the most phenomenal experiences and rewriting his whole life. Mm. So just let that sink. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. The next component is who I am is what I do.
Who I am is what I do. Again, in the comments, anybody have that big belief? Who you are is defined by what you do. You want to wax silk on that?
Well, in terms of money, of course, it's very much around, like, am I successful, right? We've sort of equated having wealth with being successful, and there's a lot of attachment to this image of being successful and what that actually means.
Well, yeah, and also,
I mean, for most people, it is, again, money in the bank.
Money in the
actually,
bank.
It's much more about how happy are you doing what you're doing, because that is the real success. But again, how attached are you to being seen as successful?
Yeah, and just seeing some people's faces pop up. Or who meets somebody and the first thing you say, hey, nice to meet you, my name's Simon. What do you do? Why don't you change that? I always change it to, what do you love? Right? Like, you know, what did Laura say the other day? She come up with one, wasn't it? Like,
because she always gets asked, where are you from?
Where are you from? What do you do?
It's like such a boring question. And so we said, what if we would change that dialogue and somebody asked you that question and you ask, so if you had only one question to ask me and I would answer you completely honestly, what would that question be? Would it still be that one?
Right. And if you think, this is such a great question. If you think about it, what do you do? Like, does it really matter what you do? Like, what about what do you be? You know, who are you? What's the essence of you?
What do you love is beautiful.
Yeah, what do you love?
You such a nice insight, because you are not who loves you, but you are what you love. You are what the things that you love in the world.
Right.
That those define you so much more than who loves you or what you do. Or
yeah, and it's beautiful that we do many different things, right? But let's get off this hierarchical structure. Like, oh, if you're an accountant or you're this or you're that or you're that, then you must be somebody. And if you're somebody, I must need to be you. I love that saying as well when we're doing teaching work or facilitation, where it's like, you know, there's no capital T teacher, right, in this world where you know something that I need to know and I need to become better like you in order to know it, right? It's like, we're friends. We're all in this together. Let's show up and just be real and authentic. So
next
number 3.
We need to look at our list here. I am what other people think of me.
I am what other people think of me. Again, in the comments, who's having that? Who's running around with the ego identification playing you, where you are concerned about how other people view you, see you, right? And look, again, we're linking this today in with money, right? Are you worried about how people see you based on your bank account, your balance, or what you're doing,
the car you drive,
what you possess. Because if they do, that's dangerous territory. I don't know if you want to be building too many great foundations of friendships and love ships on that.
We have so many, we have these advertisements even that like my house, my car, my boat, my jet, that build on this idea that we are what other people think of us and what we have, and it's really so toxic for us. So I like these 4 components because you can quickly pull yourself out and realize, oh, I'm just a little bit in the ego right now if I think and take this personal, what this person just said about me, because I'm so worried that I'm actually what this person thought I am, but I'm not. There is just their projection of what they think of me right this moment. It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
They can only see me through the lens of their own experience, and that is entirely different than my own.
Right. Let's take a deep breath in, all of us. We're powerhousing here, 25 minutes in. Let some of that sink. Take a few deep breaths. We're dropping a lot on you today. We're going to be sharing more on the webinar, but listen, feel into this. This is just a gift. If it resonates, take it. If it doesn't, leave it. But you are a divine, magnificent being, intelligent. You're a miracle. There are many beings on this planet that have 0, and they are magnificent and miracles. And there's many beings that have a lot, and they're still miracles and magnificent. But when we get caught up in this ego trap, we start judging, comparing, competing. We are in toxicity. We are in suffering. We are in violent communication. And we're like that with our money. We're like that with the way that we do business. We're like that the way we collaborate and connect. And I'm inviting, Dara's inviting, and many other people on this planet. Let's heal this. Let's rewrite this. And there's a beautiful saying that I picked up many, many years ago, is that true wealth is measured by what you have overcome in your life. The other one is that true wealth can be measured by what you have left when everything is gone, right? So you, the very fabric of your beingness, is the true wealth. Okay.
So let's jump on the fourth component of the ego, which is I am separate from everybody else.
I am separate from everybody else, so therefore I have to compete with everybody else to get what I need. And I don't want to ask for help or collaborate or co-create or lose my autonomy, because that would mean that me, Simon, isn't the one that everybody wants to be like.
And that,
not true.
And that really plays into this idea as well, that we own money in any way or form, which we cannot. If you experience yourself as separate from everybody else, then also the flow of money, you feel that you own that stuff, you own this money, but you cannot. Actually, we're all in this together. We all have this money, and when we understand that we're totally in this together, then we also are not so afraid to start circulating it, because we know it's going to do its thing. We know it's going to come back to us in various forms and in so many ways. And we stop holding on to this idea that we are separate from everybody else, that we're separate and we need to hold on. It's really so painful, this thought.
Yeah, and this we could talk more on, but we're going to try and keep this contained. We touch a little bit again on this in the next call, but in the meantime, just please check in with where these components of the ego are running you round, chasing your tail and causing you a whole heap of unnecessary noise and conflict. And you can drop it all just by checking in and asking yourself, is this true? Is this who I really am? Is this how I really want to show up? And
they definitely get highlighted in your money story, because our money story is very attached to our idea of survival. And survival is very attached to your ego, because that's ego's work. Ego is trying to support you and protect you from annihilation, really, from death.
Right, from death.
So,
the fourth taboo.
Yeah, so when we start losing that grip and realizing that we are quite cool and that we're actually, we're not dying right now, then we can let go of all these beliefs around ourselves and how we need to hold on to money and how we are defined by it.
Yes.
And the last thing, which is the third myth, which we haven't spoken about in this, the first toxic myth around scarcity, is it's just the way it is. And this one is really deep in many of us, and very difficult to rewire. Yeah, we have this idea, we look out in the world and we see all this injustice and we see all these things happening, and because there's so much of it that we go into like, yeah, it's just the way it is. I can't do anything. So then we go into this hopelessness. We go into the cynical place, which really cuts us off from our creativity and our ability to see what we have right this moment, which is still time, energy, and creativity. Your creativity, your beingness, as Simon said before, is your biggest wealth. And there's always somewhere where we can contribute. And whenever we contribute, that which we have will and has to expand, because this is how life works. When we give, it starts expanding, it starts getting more and bigger and faster.
So the more that we give,
the more we have to give.
More we have to give.
And that's how we move from scarcity to sufficiency, like to the realization, no, actually, I'm right now, right here. I have a roof over my head. I have a bed to sleep. I have some food to share with people. I have friends. I have a phone. I have a computer. I can watch Facebook. I have more than enough. I'm sufficiently provided for. I'm supported by life, and as long as I keep circulating, it will keep supporting me, because the universal law of abundance it flows abundantly for everybody, but it doesn't flow to somebody with a mindset of limitation. It cannot walk through that door. It's just the door is closed. The moment you have all these beliefs around scarce mindsets, around there's not enough, I need more, or it's just the way it is, you're not opening the door for any kind of abundance to flow to you.
Right.
But again, it is not just a quick fix. It's not just like the webinar and afterwards, you're going to have millions of dollars in your account. It's a process of slowly unclothing your heart, clothing your scarce beliefs and letting them go and releasing them, breathing them away, and realizing that you are so much more than just your beliefs. Whatever they are.
Yeah, and slowly as we strip them away, we rewrite the blueprint for ourselves, of course, for our siblings, for the next generations, because this is also in the collective field. So therefore we can just keep sharing this new way of being by showing up and practicing. And some days you fall into the old ways of being and showing up, and that's okay. But definitely you are far more wealthier than you probably are believing. And when you step into that state of being, you magnetize that which you are, because there's a saying, we attract what we are, right? And if you're walking around constantly saying you're tight, you don't have much money, it's not enough to go around, counting your pennies, checking in all the time, I've been there, and I know that is the energy that you put out to this abundant universe. And there's a beautiful book by Charles Eisenstein called Sacred Economics. We're going to be sharing a few of the books and resources that we found along the way. And just, go on your own exploration. Maybe you've got other people that you've already found that have written books or done sharing around money, because there's a lot of us out there. And we're just sharing what we're learning and practicing every day. So sending you love. Thank you for tuning in. If you've enjoyed it, please let us know. And one thing you can do as well is just to support what we're sharing, and the way we're sharing it is you can also just leave a review on our Facebook page, Dara and Sima, but no expectations, all cool. We just always forget to ask you guys, because many of you write beautiful comments and we're like, you could have probably just shared that on the page. So anything you want to say, my love?
Yeah, just so much love.
Thank you for Dara. I want to thank Dara because she put all this together as well as this little way to share it with you all, because otherwise I go like, whoa, it's all of this. She brings some structure in to share with you all. So we hope you benefited. And again, thank you for tuning in. And there's all the lives that we record are on Dara and Simon.
Yeah, and if you feel like diving deeper into this, we're going to do this webinar next week. So
the link will be in the comments, the webinar. We have 45 people already registered, and we can have space for 100, right?
I think so.
Something like that. So come, let's all rewrite our money stories.
So much love. Ciao.